I'm ready. All right, and we are back. Sorry about that small crash. That was OBS's fault this time. Can't blame it on Moto. But we are back now, and we're back with game number 3, and this is going to be a tough one. Delver Secrets on the play. Pretty good against, the Painter strategy. Daze ends up being a pretty good card most of the time. So I'm pretty interested to see, who do you think is favored from this point?
I don't know. I would definitely favor Grixis Delver. It's tough to say if Jarvis is able to keep a hand with both interaction and a threat. Then I think he's in good shape. But that's just the way the tempo decks play out. If he has to keep a hand that interacts but can't find a threat, then Bonde has time to set up.
Right, that is definitely a good point there. If he's definitely looking for a hand where he has both interaction and pressure. And I have to say this is a great example. He has Delver of Secrets, a Force of Will with a backup, and if he finds a red mana, then he also can get Young Pyromancer. And this actually might be the kind of hand that you don't hate letting Blood Moon resolve. But on the other side, Michael Bonde kept maybe kind of a close one. He has Plateau, City of Traders, Simian Spirit Guide, Grindstone, and Chandra, Torch of Defiance. This is a lot of really good cards, but he's pretty weak to a Wasteland here. So, he's kind of keeping his hand going, all right, well, if he just has no Wasteland here, I'm in a pretty good spot. And, that's definitely the case here. He did find a mountain off the top. This Grindstone is going to go ahead and come right into play.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, Bonde had the option to actually win on turn 2 because he could have played City on 1, played Painter Servant, and then turn 2 played Plateau, floated 2 mana, played Grindstone and activated. But that's not a very safe play to make in this type of matchup where Jarvis just has so many ways to interact with it, whether it's Lightning Bolt or Daze.
Yep, and we're going to see here, Flooded Strand off the top is going to give Jarvis access to red mana. It's also going to let him kind of control what's going on a little bit with his mana. But we are going to see here, this Blood Moon is going to come down. Jarvis took the shields down for 1 turn, and it is going to cost him a little bit here.
Definitely.
So he's going to hope that he flips off a blue spell here, so this Force of Will can, kind of just be forced through.
Well, it's certainly not a bad Lightning Bolt, not a bad spell to draw when all of your lands are mountains.
Right, and also pretty good for Young Pyromancer here. He is going to have to get this clock on here, but this is going to be kind of a really close one here.
Oh, man. Yeah. It looks like Bonde is just dead next turn.
It looks like he is just kind of dead on board, and so he has to figure out what he's going to do. And it looks like he is going to go ahead and play this Painter Servant. Does this Painter Servant resolve? It does. What is he going to name? And I don't think he's going to name blue here. That'd be probably one of the worser names.
Yeah, this is a great example of a scenario where you don't want to name blue because your top decked Pyroblasts already have targets in the form of Delver Secrets.
Yep.
So you'd rather not turn on your opponent's Pyroblasts if Jarvis had boarded them in.
And we see here that Michael did name black. He also doesn't want to give access to Force of Will. So if he assumed that Jarvis kept a hand with Force of Will, but played out his Delver and then Force of Will went down for a turn, if he names blue, Jarvis could just pitch his Wasteland here for Force of Will here. But we are going to see him take it a little easy. We're going to see these Delver Secrets come in, drop Michael Bonde down to 4. And we'll see how he's going to react. Michael Bonde definitely has to understand that Lightning Bolt is a card that kills. And Ancient Grudge as well are just 2 cards that kill him. This is pretty interesting here, actually. So what Michael's just going to go ahead and play Chandra to kind of try and kill one of these Delver of Secrets, and this Force of Will is going to go ahead and counter it, and this Simian Spirit Guide is not going to be enough for him to also activate Painter Servant, and that's just going to go ahead and do it in, and Jarvis is going to be up 2-0 on Michael Bonde here.
Yeah, very impressive showing from the Grixis Delver deck. Again, I've heard Jarvis talk several times about how he thinks that is just the de facto best deck in the format. And here in these last 2 matches, we've seen its ability to tackle just like unique and different style of decks. It solves different problems. It's got unique, it's got access to surgical extraction. Ancient Grudge, backed up with a powerful clock, Wasteland, Days Force. It's just really the most powerful cards in the format, forming just a really resilient aggro deck.
Right, and we see here Jarvis kind of took his time. He didn't force through anything. He was very patient, and he was rewarded with a bunch of wins here. But that is going to be it for me. Bob Wong is going to be tagging in for me. I know, but we have to let other people try, and I'm actually supposed to be at work, so I'm going to go ahead and go to work. We are going to be doing a giveaway shortly, so I want to thank Card Hoarder, who's one of our sponsors, for helping us with our giveaway, and I also want to thank Matt Pavlik and Cardimajigs for also being a part of this Legacy Premier League, and I hope everyone is having an enjoyable time watching Jarvis beat up on people. Pretty much a bully, I would have to say. So thank you for joining us, and I'm Rudy Brixa. This is Mac Doyle. Mac Doyle will be joining you in just a little bit still, and I'll see you guys either later tonight or next week.
Alright, so we have our first giveaway from Card Hoarder. This one is for a shirt of your choice of colors, either black or white, with a Sweet Dragon design on it. Or you can get a playmat. Regardless of your choice, it comes with 100 sleeves. And you can type $, Card Hoarder into the chat to participate. And I'll draw the winner in a little bit, once a bunch of people have entered. And I have sufficient time to rig it. Working on rigging it now. Also waiting on Bob because he got caught in traffic, so it's convenient. Alright, so I'm going to give it 30 more seconds, which because of the stream delay is going to be 5 seconds. White Faces says not rigged, and I assure you, it is rigged. It's always rigged. Alright, here we go. Alright. Kelvendil, congratulations. You should message, it's Julian, the channel owner, to claim your prize. He is currently on a flight from Vancouver back to Germany, so he's gonna get that message tomorrow, and then just let him know what you want and include your address, and he'll send it your way, or he'll have it sent your way rather. And now we're gonna have some music while Bob gets here. Let's see. There we go. That's our normal screen. And you guys can get Super Mario Galaxy. Dang, that did not transition over. Because Rudy Cam is still on. Hello. Welcome back. Bob is late. He's in traffic. And rather than make you guys wait, I'm just going to kind of jump in for him with Mac here.
Yeah. I'm excited to see you do some commentary, Mike.
Yeah. I did not make a name for myself, a name tag. I was not expecting to do commentary, I guess. So, hi, I'm Overvoltage. I run the stream. And this is my buddy Mac. He's playing.
Yeah.
So, any objections to just jumping right in? Our players are ready.
I hope so.
Also, I need to fix your camera on this scene now. This is the downside of me commentating, is I still have to deal with all of the stream crap. Alright, so let's just jump right in.
Cool. Interesting. So it looks like Michael Bonde has brought what appears to be Esper Deathblade as his third deck. And I like that deck a lot. I think that deck, a lot like Grixis Delver, covers a lot of different bases in terms of being able to fight the fair decks with Stoneforge Mystic package and Snapcaster Swords to Plowshares, and then being able to fight the unfair decks with main deck discard like Inquisition, as well as lots of really good hate bears out of the sideboard like Containment Priest. And see Bonde leading off on Deathrite Shaman, which is a really good start for that deck. The Deathblade decks really utilize their mana very well. Having excess mana is really good when you're playing Equipment and Stoneforge Mystic. So next turn, he should be able to cast Stoneforge and Inquisition in the same turn, assuming he has that fetch land. It's going to be interesting to see if Michael actually takes Daze with Inquisition of Kozilek, which, doesn't feel quite as good, knowing that he could have just paid for Daze had he played Stoneforge Mystic first. But I guess it's a measure of whether or not he views the True Name Nemesis that Jarvis has as a more important threat than waiting one more turn for Stoneforge Mystic. So
he gets to slam Stoneforge Mystic this turn, but if he doesn't find an answer to True Name Nemesis, he the Stoneforge Mystic is kind of blanked. We kind of skipped deck lists, my bad, but Michael does not play a Sword of Fire and Ice in his main deck, so it's just Jit and Batterskull, and both of those get blanked by True Name Nemesis. So
interesting.
I'm kind of surprised because he'll have 4 mana available next turn, assuming his Deathrite Shaman stays alive. So he'd be able to play around Daze basically the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then, leaving 1 mana up all the time for Deathrite Shaman activation isn't terrible. It's kind of like how Miracles used to not care about Daze because they would just always leave mana up to spin top anyways.
Yeah. No, I actually kind of like this line for Bonde because I think next turn he's going to be able to cast Snapcaster Mage and then Inquisition again to take the True Name.
I guess that's fair.
And then Swords to Plowshares being a very good draw for him allows him to get the Flip Delver off the table as well. Jarvis taking just a couple lands off the top means it looks like he's beginning to fall behind in this game.
If I can grab his Deathblade list real quick. Kind of flash it up on the screen.
Yep, and it does look like Bonde is going for that play of flashing back the Inquisition. Okay.
Yeah,
it does look...
He's got a bunch of lands that I'm not showing.
Okay, gotcha. But it is interesting that Bonde also has Liliana of the Veil as an out to True Name if he's able to get the Delver Secrets off the table. So... yeah, very interesting. 1 Vindicate in the main I'm a big fan of, as well as 4 Dark Confidants. It's more, this looks like just a slightly more creature-heavy version of the Stoneblade deck, as well as 2 Vendilion Clicks in the main. I really like it.
Yep, so a bit of a sound check, because people are telling me in chat that I'm a little quiet, so I added some gain. It might be too loud now, my apologies. I'll wait for some feedback. Yep, so True Name off the top comes down. He correctly names Michael Bonde as his nemesis.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't go aggro with this Jid is kind of offline. Yeah, he doesn't have... No, he has 2 Vendilion Click as flyers. And then his only answers to it are Liliana in the main.
Yep.
And with the abundance of creatures, that's not a very good out here.
Yeah, and Grim Lavamancer off the top for Jarvis also going to be very good. Considering every single one of Bonde's creatures, it looks like in his deck list dies to Grim Lavamancer. Yeah. And Michael Bonde, I think, making the right play and eating something out of Jarvis's graveyard at the end of turn to try to clear as many cards out before that Grim Lavamancer comes online. Bonde getting a Stoneforge Mystic off the top means that being able to put Batterskull into play, I think Bonde is going to be able to start getting a little more, at least, I guess he's not able to get aggressive because he can put the Jit on something that is not Batterskull, but he's just going to, Jarvis is just going to be able to shoot whatever is carrying the Jit if it's not a Germ token.
Yeah, plus even just allowing the Germ to crash in for a little bit, Jarvis is at a very healthy life total.
Definitely. Huh.
Yeah, so you had mentioned... Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just really surprised Jarvis chose to use the Grim Lavamancer main phase. I guess he wants to... Go ahead.
You had mentioned everything on his board dies to Grim Lavamancer here. And that's kind of a theme of his deck. Like, so everything, appears to be 2 power or less, with Deathrite Shaman and Stoneforge Mystic being the top of the toughness. And one of the reasons I think to run Esper instead of like Bant, which I prefer because of the extra mana dorks, is you're not as vulnerable to something like a Zealous Persecution or an Engineered Plague. But his creature base was 4 Dark Confidant, and then he has Snapcaster Mage and 2 Vendilion Click, that are all X1s. So, like, Jit is also very good against him.
Definitely. Huh. It's interesting. Okay, that makes a lot of sense for Bonde to keep... for Jarvis to keep that Snapcaster Mage. Just because Snapcaster Mage is another body to come up the board, and being able to like flashback the Ponder to dig for another True Name Nemesis makes a ton of sense in this situation.
So Bonde needs to rip an answer here because he's dead on board.
He certainly is. Unfortunately, that's just the power of True Name Nemesis. It's able to blank ground creatures really well.
It is a super interactive card.
Yeah, it attacks and blocks, just like every other creature. That's an interesting set of 3 cards on that Ponder. Not sure I would keep that if I was Jarvis.
I might just for the information. Like,
ooh, yeah, that's true.
Well, I guess he's not going to cast the probe anyways, but realistically, okay, so Michael scoops. But, what would be his outs going in blind?
Yeah. I'm not really sure. Interesting to see Bonde is boarding in Meddling Mage in this match. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of that against the tempo decks. Lingering Souls, however, incredible against Delver Secrets. Basically uncounterable. You'd have to spend 2 counter spells to deal with it, the front side and the back side. And if Bonde is able to achieve stable mana like he did in Game 1, he's going to have a much better time. On Jarvis's side, he's bringing Liliana of the Last Hope, which seems like just a beating against all of the X1s that Bonde has.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't even know. Like, Jarvis is boarding that in without even knowing that there's Dark Confidants and Clicks in Bonde's deck.
Another note about Lingering Souls, like, it's very good if you do get to flash it back, but both decks are running Deathrite Shaman.
Ooh, that's true.
It's unlikely that Michael would exile his own Lingering Souls with Deathrite Shaman, but maybe the 2 damages, whatever. Not going to go down that road, but Jarvis certainly could.
Yeah, definitely. But, I'm not really sure. I'm really surprised to see Bonde not playing any Fatal Pushes in his deck.
Yeah.
Just the 4 Source of Plowshares, the spot removal seems like it would leave him a little weaker in a matchup like this, where you really need to answer Delver of Secrets.
It could be that he got his list from a time before Fatal Push was printed and never thought to update it.
Ooh, that is true. That is definitely true. Yeah. I was going to say, it seems a little bit more like an old school list. Like a lot of the older Esper Stoneblade lists played Dark Confidant. And,
Yeah, so Jarvis notably did not bring in Staticaster.
Yeah, interesting. And I'm sure he will if... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, he had no reason to. He didn't see any Dark Confidants. He didn't see a Vendilion click. It was just a bunch of X2s.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that it would be very good, or...
Right.
At least, I would bring it in knowing deck lists.
Right, certainly. It's interesting that Jarvis kept a hand that can with 3 red spells and no red mana in his 4-color deck.
Yeah, I mean, he had turn 1 Delver, he has interaction with 2 Wastelands.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, he did have only 1 castable card.
Yeah. Yeah, my thought is just that if he gets Inquisitioned on turn 1 and the Delver gets taken, then suddenly he's just like has no castables.
Or even sorted.
I like Michael Bonde being incredibly patient with his Swords to Plowshares. Like, he doesn't have to fire it off immediately, and playing around something like a Spell Pierce seems really advantageous.
Too, he also has Supreme Verdict in hand. He might be trying to get some early value from that.
Definitely. Unfortunately for him, Jarvis's hand is full of interactive spells rather than creatures. So, other than maybe running this Deathrite Shaman out.
And it is a little telegraphing, because Jarvis does have the Cabal Therapy. You know, what kind of hand is Michael keeping that doesn't have any turn 1 through 3 plays?
That's very true. Yeah, and I think in this match, too, you kind of have to save your Supreme Verdicts for the cards you can't handle otherwise, like True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, but anyway, so not necessarily telegraphing True Name not necessarily telegraphing Supreme Verdict, but he might just fire it off on that Jace.
Mm-hmm, you know, definitely.
Just blind hit, what can my opponent be keeping at 4?
Right. Oh man, Liliana off the top is so good. Just a solid planeswalker that's immune to the red blast in Jarvis's hand, and so no plays from Bonde. That's very interesting. I wonder if he's waiting to draw protection for the Liliana, because he can already play it around days. But then again, Jarvis is not applying a lot of pressure. Deathrite Shaman is a very slow clock. And so, Michael Bonde being the control deck in almost every match tonight, I think benefits by waiting to cast his spells until the soft counters become more relevant.
Unfortunately for him, Jarvis doesn't have any threats to run in for a 2-for-1 off the Supreme Verdict or to snag a True Name Nemesis.
Yeah.
I actually like Liliana of the Veil quite a bit right now. Like, in, I guess, more of a Grixis shell, something that has a lot of spot removal like Lightning Bolts and, things that can pick off Mana Dorks or Stoneforge Mystics. Because both halves of it are relevant against the True Name decks, which I feel are Grixis' weakness.
Definitely. Yep, and Jarvis correctly firing off the Forked Bolt here.
Yep, cannot redirect 1 and 1 because both have to target Michael here.
Oh man, and Jarvis is really going to get rewarded for his patience with Cabal Therapy, I think, if Michael opts to cast the Stoneforge Mystic this turn. Or one of his 2 Stoneforge Mystics. But it doesn't look like that's what's happening. It looks like Jace the Mind Sculptor is coming down instead, which Jarvis has an immediate answer for in Red Elemental Blast.
He's still eating that red blast. I still like 2 Pyroblasts over the 1/1 split in a deck with young Pyromancers. I've never had it come up as an issue where, like, I get Therapied or Meddling Maged.
Right. Definitely not. I agree.
And then the random end of turn Wasteland. I guess keeping Jarvis off 5 mana.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is such
wasting a black source, I guess, trying to keep him off. I think he has 3 Underground Seas total, and that's his first one in the graveyard.
Huh. I wonder what Jarvis is naming here after... Ooh. And Jarvis, I think, getting really punished for firing off that Cabal Therapy here.
Yeah.
It's so tough to, see your opponent play so few spells in the first 6 turns of the game. Like, what does that telegraph?
That could have been really bad for Bonde. Like, there's no reason to name Stoneforge Mystic, but if he had Jataxian Probe or something, or even just like a Delver of Secrets, if I'm Jarvis and I have a Delver, I think I run it out just to flash it back naming Stoneforge Mystic.
Oh, definitely. Yep. Oh, man. Yeah, but here Bonde gets to play both Stoneforge Mystic and Dark Confidant with not the most healthy life total, but 13 is definitely enough when your opponent has no threat in play.
Okay, so there's an answer to both of them this time around. He could also make the same Delver play to Flashback Therapy, but that's less good here. Only hitting better. Well, I'd imagine he brought in Ancient Grudge. So he does have an answer to Batterskull, but once Michael has 3 mana up to protect it, it might be a little difficult to get rid of. He does have 2 true names of his own, but I think that's why Michael brought in the Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I would be incentivized to flashback to Therapy here just because Bonde is so close to hardcasting Batterskull. Like, even if Jarvis has an answer for both Stoneforge Mystics. Batterskull itself without a True Name Nemesis on Jarvis' side is pretty tough to beat. And it's interesting that Bonde is willing to trade his Dark Confidant for the Delver of Secrets here. Maybe he's afraid of the Cabal Therapy.
It's not often that you see somebody make the trade, like offer the trade and the trade get accepted.
Yeah, yep.
But we are working with a lot of hidden information.
That's true. This whole game's really been determined by hidden information, but with both players playing so few spells in the first 4 or 5 turns.
Yeah, that was the first Jataxian Probe from Jarvis of his 4, and then the 1 discard spell. I don't think Michael had an Inquisition. That was game 1, so he's been operating blind this entire time. Alright, so this Liliana is brutal.
See, I don't really love playing Liliana here just because you have 3 cards in your hand that are all very good. Although, Swords to Pleasures is a little expendable, I think just jamming Batterskull.
How does Jarvis get out of this? Like, he has to draw like Runner Bolt or Bolt Snapcaster Mage? Or Abrupt Decay if he plays it, but that's unlikely because it's just 1 drop.
No, that's true. That's true. It's funny, it's just like I'm not used to seeing Liliana anymore because she just hasn't seen a ton of play in the last 6 months in Legacy. Or not, it's not even been 6 months, but yeah, interesting. Bonde has to be really careful what he puts back off of this Brainstorm if he intends on casting Dark Confidant. Although he might...
Right now he'd reveal a 1, so...
Right. He might also just intend on shuffling away the Batterskull and just leaving it to find later with another Stoneforge Mystic.
I don't like that since he has the 5 mana to cast it, and it's really good on an empty board.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Jarvis makes the correct play of bolting at end of, or in response to the Liliana. So hopefully, I think his only shot, like you said, is just to draw another bolt off the top. And that is not a bolt.
Yeah, a bolt or a Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster would be ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and with Jarvis Hellbent, like the way is clear to just hardcast, or I guess he doesn't have the mana, but yeah, just being in a really commanding position with Lily out of the Ville is very good against an empty board.
Let's see if that Staticaster makes its way in.
Yeah.
Did he just side out the Jit, or was it out the entire time? Because that seems
I think it
really
was
good.
I think it was out. I'm not sure. It does seem like a matchup he would definitely want it in. I'm not sure why it wouldn't be in against the X1 creature deck.
And then he's cutting Cabal Therapies against Stoneforge Mystic. The
right.
Reveal a card that's good against you.
Yeah, I'm surprised. And he brought out Lavamancers? Interesting.
So, what role is his deck trying to take?
I'm not really sure. Like, he should be the aggro deck, especially on the play. So it might make sense that Lavamancer is just a little too slow. But I don't know. Like, Jite is such a haymaker. It really locks your opponent out of the game in creature duel, like in creature mirrors. And I don't know. Jarvis has not seen Lingering Souls from Bonde, so I'm curious as to like the Tombstalker not being in the deck. Just because Tombstalker is able to fly over the true names that Jarvis might think Bonde has.
Like, hey, why is the screen black? Why isn't the match starting? Right. I have to do stuff.
So I really like this hand from Bonde outside of his mana, and I think this game is really determined by his mana. But Jarvis's hand is pretty good, being able to react to if Bonde has turned to Stoneforge Mystic with an ancient, like deciding whether to keep that Ancient Grudge or not with a Brainstorm. He just drew Lightning Bolt, which alongside Snapcaster Mage is going to be good against an early Liliana of the Ville.
I'm going to check on Bonde's lands real quick to see if he has Wasteland, and he does. He has 3 Wastelands, and I believe that Trop is the only green source besides Deathray Shaman. Huh. So if there's a Thoughtseize effect here, take Ancient Grudge, Wasteland your Trop. I guess that's protection for a future Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, for sure.
The double bolt off the top matches up very well to this Dark Confidant Stoneforge Mystic draw.
Definitely. Very good draws off the top, especially alongside Snapcaster Mage. Bolt just answers every creature in Bonde's deck. Delver off the top is very good. Jarvis's hand is full of reactive removal spells, but he can't play the reactive role in this matchup just because he doesn't have the haymaker cards like Jace and Supreme Verdict to reset the board. Like, eventually his cards will be outclassed if the game goes long enough. So he's got to get a clock down.
Yes, he does have one Jace the Mind Sculptor, and it is still in. But I agree.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. Ooh, and it looks like Jarvis does have Grim Lavamancer in the deck, and drew the sweet hotness, Liliana the Last Hope.
Yeah, with no black sources on the board. 1 fetch land, so he's halfway there. But
that's true.
If he wants to play the Lavamancer this turn, it's getting a bulk. I think it's worth waiting.
I think so, too.
Especially because you can flip Delver off of one of these bolts and fetch in. Okay, well, that was an end-step Brainstorm, so definitely flipping the Delver here.
Yeah, yep.
And Michael taking a very conservative line, not running out either of his creatures, drew the Batterskull, so it's going to be real awkward if he draws Jute next turn.
I'm surprised Jarvis didn't shuffle away that lightning bolt. He seems to have, between Grim Lavamancer and Snap Bolt, I think he's got Michael's creatures under control. I would be digging for, or no, I guess Liliana's on top of his library right now, so I'm probably waiting to redraw that.
It's also still reach, 3 to the face if the game goes long enough.
Right, definitely. So, yep, and Diabolic clearing the pressure.
So if you're Michael, are you run? Well, never mind. With the Grim Lavamancer, you're probably not running out either.
Yeah, I think you're just waiting for Supreme Verdict, hoping. I don't know. It's tough to say whether Jarvis should run out another threat or not.
How about this? If you're Jarvis, do you fetch away the Liliana, or do you want to draw it?
I don't know. You just don't have a ton of really resilient threats in your deck, but I think drawing 2 of blacks.
It's also not doing anything right now. Even against the Stoneforge Mystic, it doesn't kill it.
Right, definitely. Yeah, I think you're right. And you're gonna have Grim Lavamancer online for removal, so I can definitely see trying to dig for something like a Young Pyromancer. Ooh, and another Wasteland is going to be very good against Bonde. Bonde's sitting with 2 4-drops and a 5-drop in his hand, and a Dark Confidant that's going to immediately die to Grim Lavamancer. I'm not liking the way the Bonde looks in this game.
So that was Waste Your Waste instead of the Tundra?
Yeah, that was an interesting line.
That could be one of the reasons why Jarvis didn't want the Tombstalker in his deck, is it is against a Wasteland deck, and the black, he doesn't have a lot of black cards. I guess it's weird that he has Liliana, because it is a double black spell.
Right. Perhaps he just doesn't want to overload on them. Yeah, and I like Wastelanding Michael's Wasteland, because if Michael Wastelands Jarvis, then Jarvis is cut off of Snapcaster Mage plus anything, basically. Here we're seeing Snapcaster Brainstorm, because I don't get the impression Jarvis isn't too threatened by the Jita in play by itself with a Bolt and Ancient Grudge in hand.
Yeah. Also, Snap Bolt your face at 16 isn't super threatening.
Definitely not. Ooh, Cabal Therapy was a very good draw.
So was the Red Blast.
Absolutely. Ooh, I guess Cabal Therapy was not a good draw because Jarvis. Okay, he did. Yeah, that's why I thought it was a good draw. He had he drew the Underground Sea as well. So really, just lining up the components.
So right now, Jarvis has 3 Grim Lavamancer activations worth in damage, potential damage. I guess he could always Red Blast his own Snapcaster Mage, get those extra 2 cards in the yard if he really needed it.
Yeah, another argument for Pyroblast over Red Elemental Blast, so you could fire it to fill your graveyard for Lavamancer.
And here starts Bolt to the face.
Yep. Jarvis realizes he's got to end this game quick, because if Michael hits that 4th land and starts dropping haymakers, it's going to be very bad for him.
Yeah, the Dark Confidant is looking worse and worse as every turn goes by, and his life total gets lower and lower.
Yeah, I think Bonde...
Post-board, I don't believe he has any 5s. The Forces aren't main deck, and he just has 2 Jaces, 1 Batterskull. The Batterskull's in his hand, so he's not at risk of putting himself within bolt range immediately. But this is just going to be a Swords to Plowshares on Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah. And I like this play from Bonde. You just can't take the risk of Jarvis naming the second Swords to Plowshares with Therapy. Because if that Lavamancer sticks around, the game's over in 3 turns.
So if you're Jarvis, what do you name your opponent?
He certainly knows Batterskull.
Yeah, the Batterskull's revealed. You have an answer for it in your hand, though, and you know your opponent's playing Jace because you saw it game 2, and he's been off 4 mana the entire game, and it's an empty board.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
I don't know.
You have the red blast, but if he has Jace plus Force plus blue card as his other 2 unknowns.
Oh, I see, yeah.
You can always flash back the Grudge. You can't flash back red elemental blast.
That's true. Now you make a very good point. Ooh, that second Cabal Therapy off the top is very good. And Bond's sitting pretty precariously with that Dark Confidant in play at 6 life.
So there's a better skull name.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, there aren't any 5s left to hit, but certainly lots of 2s and 3s. But revealing Polluted Delta, probably best case scenario, and now he gets to suit up Vegeta. Although we know that won't be very good.
Yep. He also has Snap Path his Dark Confidant now, if that becomes an issue.
That's true, yeah.
But yeah, I could see Jarvis drawing, Bolt or Snapcaster here, and then Michael, reveals a Liliana, or his last Jace puts him within range, and that's just super awkward. Jarvis, however, letting us down with his famed luck.
Ooh, and Click is a very good draw, too.
Yep. Somebody asking in chat, if you are Jarvis, do you activate Windows? I like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Click at this end step. And Jarvis is kind of just priced into red blasting this, which clears the way for Bond's Snapcaster Mage.
I don't. If I'm Bond, well, yeah. So from Jarvis, he obviously red blasts it, and there's a Vindicate off the top, putting him to 3. I would click myself and get rid of that second Confidant.
Ooh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that might have been Bond's intention as well. Because in this, oh my god, he let Jarvis go to draw step. That's really interesting. I would have immediately plowed my own Dark Confidant.
Yeah, he has to do it here or risk death.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
He's at 3, so he could still very easily be put back into bolt range.
Yeah, definitely.
He fetches. Does he have a green source? Yeah, he has a Bayou.
Yeah, he still has Bayou in his deck. But Jarvis taking two more lands off the top in a row, not looking good against Bond's live draws off that Dark Confidant.
Creeping Tar Pit Wasteland.
Not a fan of either of those.
Yeah, I'd bought them both. Alright, he keeps the Tar Pit. He had already made his land drop for turn.
Yeah, I guess the Tar Pit kind of makes sense in that Bond needs to end this game quickly now because he's ahead, but he's at 1 life and has no answer to a bolt off the top from Jarvis.
And Jarvis may be regretting that Snap Brainstorm instead of Snap Bolt while Michael was at 16.
Yeah.
The one card deeper not really mattering.
Mm-hmm.
So if Bond goes aggro, well, I'd imagine you want to get to 5 life, especially because you just fetched the Bayou. But then that's Snapcaster plus Deathrite activation plus Creeping Tar Pit. That's 7 a turn. So he has a 2-turn clock right now.
Mm-hmm.
Jarvis needs to draw something to end the game last turn, basically.
Right.
And the 9th or 10th land is not going to do it. I don't know how many are in exile, but I know there are a couple wastelands traded and a couple fetches exiled to the low answer.
Yep.
Here comes Papa Jace, which actually gives Jarvis an extra turn because the Tar Pit's not activating.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I think Bond is just looking for as much insurance against some card he doesn't know about from Jarvis.
Fiery Confluence off the top.
Right, Confluence or Deluge maybe would be pretty good here. So, I don't know.
He's still representing lethal. If it weren't for this true name, 3 drains, Tar Pit, and Snapcaster is exacties.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I think a lot of players kind of get into the habit of playing really safe when they're ahead. But sometimes the safest play is just to end the game as quickly as possible. Ending the game quickly, means that they can't get back in the game regardless of how many cards they've drawn. So
I'm a fan of the red school of thought, as I call it, where card advantage. You drew 10 extra cards, but you died with 7 cards in your hand.
Right, exactly. Yep. Yeah, it doesn't matter how many outs you have if you're already dead. So, but I mean, Bonde is still just crawling. I mean, getting into a more and more commanding position, drawing another spot, like drawing another plow, which can be a response to a bolt if Jarvis tries to eke out direct damage win. He's playing it very safe.
Michael going to 7 instead of draining for 2, with the tar pit out. Doesn't change the clock any. But he's clearly worried about Jarvis's 4 cards in hand.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the power of playing against a really good player. Is it can be kind of intimidating when they are drawing cards and doing nothing. But that day's just rotting in Jarvis's hand.
And Jonk, Robert, and in chat saying brainstorming a double bolt still an out. Michael could just plow his own Snapcaster Mage. Be at that healthy 7 life total.
Right.
Well, the curse of 3-0s is broken. Jarvis did not 3-0. He's at 2-1 now. So
I'm excited we get to see some more Magic. Yeah, this is nice.
Bonde is still in this. And if I lean over, you guys can kind of see the stream display a little bit in the mirror behind me.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Very good.
So we should probably have a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be back with match number 4, in which Jarvis chooses a new deck. So stay tuned. All right, we're back. Sorry to cut the music short because apparently people were enjoying it, but we didn't feel like sitting around for 50 seconds. So we're back, and Jarvis had to choose a new deck. It appears he has chosen Food Chain.
Food chain.
You have much experience with the deck, Bob?
I have a little bit. Hopefully, he does better than I did. So as I think you mentioned, he's up 2-1. So he just needs one of his last two decks to win. So hopefully, this one gets the job done.
And as was a theme, I'm not sure if you watched our last game or listened to commentary. Bonde's deck has a lot of X1s, and this deck has 4 Walking Ballistas. So even with the combo aside, I think it's very well paired up. 4 Bale
Yeah, that makes sense.
4 Walking Ballista.
Yeah, I think Food Chain is generally good against the mid-rangey blue decks. It's really hard for them to answer just a single Manipulate Fate, even without the combo kill. And then just the fact that when the game inevitably goes long, the fact that you have the combo kill, I think Jarvis should be favored.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Elves where they have the combo kill, but they don't need it. They can just grind you out too.
Yeah, exactly. Food Chain's similar to Elves in many ways.
Yeah, and this deck has a lot of stall. Like the 4 Baleful Strix, 4 Deathrite Shaman to turn off your opponent's Deathrite Shaman, Manipulate Fate, plus, the creatures you exile and cast from exile. Or it's just an insane value engine.
Yeah, for sure.
And just because we missed it the last time, let's take a quick look at Bomb's list in its entirety. Notably,
greedy deck.
Yeah, notably, Force of Wills are on the sideboard.
Okay.
I do not believe it plays Days. I don't see them. Nope.
No, it's like your classic old school 2013 Deathblade list. It looks pretty. It's weird. It's like one of those collections of just good cards decks, which I generally don't like. But obviously it's it's built to have game against everything, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, the 2 Inquisitions instead of Thoughtseize. I guess I intrinsically don't agree with that. I can't get on board.
I think the reason for that is the main spells that cost 4 more, it's Jace and Force. And maybe he didn't expect Jarvis to play Jace, and then he just doesn't really care that much about Force. Whereas he knew Jarvis, might play Delver, so the life might be relevant. So I don't hate it.
And then it looks like 0 True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, I don't mind that choice either. Lingering Souls is also the better card against Delver. Against lands, I think True Name's a bit better, but Souls is okay, I think.
Yeah, I would have personally been wanting for it against Grixis. But let's see how he does. Looks like Jarvis is on the play and is in the middle of rearranging his hand. There we go. So, opening 7 from Jarvis. Do you keep this?
I keep everything. So now I need to look at the hand. Yes, that is part of everything.
Okay. And then Bonde has no threats, Thoughtseize, 2 removal spells, 2 lands.
Yeah, that's where Bonde wants to be. He just wants to, start off with some removal spells. Yeah, we'll see what he does here. He does have no basics, which I agree with. I think these 4-color decks, when they start playing basics, the mana gets even worse. So this is interesting. And Michael's setting up a Thoughtseize, and Jarvis is going to presumably hide his Manipulate Fate because that's the best card in his hand by a lot. So we'll see what he wants to shuffle away. Looks like he's trying to shuffle away the Ballista.
I mean, he could. Well, I don't think.
Yeah, he's trying to shuffle away. He could play the Forest so that he draws it in case the Manipulate Fate gets countered, but
I don't hate drawing Ballista against Bonde, just as a value creature, just a 4-mana 2/2 or whatever. And if
honestly,
if Bonde follows up with a Stoneforge Mystic or even a Deathrite or a Dark Confidant, I think I'm gonna go Forest Decay and just draw the Ballista.
Yeah. Looks like he does choose to play the Forest, but it looks like this is going to resolve, so he's still going to draw a random card off the top. Yeah, I think a Ballista might have been a little bit better than the second Abrupt Decay, but either way.
So Marsh Flats, Liliana. I kind of hate the Liliana here. Like, so, Bond doesn't know what he's... Oh, the Manipulate Fate was cast, so yes he does. He knows exactly what he's up against.
Yeah, turn 3 Eternal Scourge, which is pretty good against Swords of Plowshares. Yeah, Manipulate Fate is just a sick card. It's literally just a 4-for-1 in so many matchups. Basically, like, so many decks just have trouble dealing with infinite 3/3s. This is Legacy, where you can't kill a 3/3 for 4 mana or 3 mana.
That's one of the reasons why Manipulate Fate is such a strong card.
My head is kind of big, so I keep moving my monitor back, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything.
Maybe you just have a big head.
I do have a big head, but I don't like that you're pointing it out. That's very rude.
What that? Is that better?
That looks much better. Thank
That
you.
make you less self-conscious?
Yes, I feel loads better.
I could give you the Anurag treatment.
And what would that be?
It looks a little something like that.
Oh yeah, that's the common treatment.
All right, so Liliana comes down to clear the Scourge.
Yeah, so
no Delphic Shaman.
Ballista's, yeah, Ballista's a pretty good draw because one way for these bug decks to lose is to just Jace, like unsummon. And so like Bond could potentially like tempo out Jarvis with the Jace. But the Ballista is a good draw as kind of insurance against Planeswalkers. So yeah, he's definitely going to jam Jace, unsummon, and then tick up. And then Jarvis gets the basically counter by Ballista, kill the Jace. Which still puts Michael in decent shape because he has Liliana. But
yeah, so he could, well, when Michael plays a creature, he can Murderous Cut and exile his Eternal Scourge, get it back. Leovold is basically a cantrip here. Cycles against the Liliana or draw a card and then reduce a loyalty on Jace. I guess you could Swords to Plowshares at 2. He's going to get rid of the Liliana, which I think is the easier to answer of the two, especially not knowing about the Swords to Plowshares here.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this play. It makes sense from Jarvis, given that he didn't, given that he drew the Leovold.
That is not what I would do.
Ooh. No! That is, do we have a punt counter?
Yes, we do. And that is what I would do, just not in that sequence. And I believe I left in some of the original audio here.
That's rough. Discard 2 cards. Lucky Jarvis to play against an opponent who is a very good Magic player, but perhaps has not played Jace against Leovold in Legacy. I assume, it's definitely like a misplay, but it's like a kind of I forgot misplay as opposed to like I navigated the game wrong misplay. But yeah, this is pretty much game. I mean, Jarvis still has 2 Griffins, and Michael's stuck. He could have shuffled away the GT potentially, but no, he's done. He sees the writing on the wall. Wow, that is just a brutal mistake.
We have some audio from them in sideboarding as well, right at the start. I'm not sure if it played already. Jarvis started to say, I kind of feel bad for, and then it's just drowned out by Bond going, fuck! Alright,
yeah, that's discard 2 cards, not so good.
So actual sideboarding, Jarvis sides out his forces, sides out both Murderous Cut to bring in 2 Engineered Plague. Which seems fair. Like, he's seen a good amount of Bonde's deck now. He knows about the Dark Confidant at least. He might suspect there's true names.
What were Bond's first 2 decks out of curiosity?
He played Red-Green Lands and Painter. Red-White Painter. John Mario Kart's
Wow,
list.
Bonde bringing out the lands against the Lands Master. That's a bold move.
Well, it would have been really funny if he 3-0'd Jarvis with lands.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I mean, Jarvis knows perhaps better than anybody else in the world how to play against lands as Delver, so I'm not surprised that he won. All right, so what is Bond bringing in? He's bringing in the Edicts, which are a little bit better than the Plows.
Yeah, he just brought in a Relic of Progenitus. He sided out his Stoneforge package, which I guess is fine because he doesn't have Sword of Fire and Ice. The protection from blue helps a lot against Baleful Strix.
Yeah, agreed. That is the main reason to play Sword of Fire and Ice still, is because a lot of people are playing Baleful Strix, while also, being relevant against True Name and, I suppose, Mist Hollow Griffin. It is like sort of the third flexible equipment, but I think it's useful enough to find a spot in your 75 if you cut it from your main deck. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really make too much of the Relic against Jarvis. Like, it kind of shuts down Deathrite sometimes, but not always.
It kind of helps Jarvis a little too.
Yeah, like if you pop the Relic after you've like killed his guys, that's pretty bad. And I guess you can see him just like shuffling it away pretty immediately.
I guess you get the Scrublands here. It's a 1-of to cast the Inquisition, because what else are you doing with your turn? And you still want your white mana.
I think he's going to take the Manipulate Fate. Pretty easy choice.
I think you have to take the Food Chain.
Wait, there's 2 food chains.
Yeah, but you have a Force for the second one. Or a Click.
Yeah, but like if they just have food chain, like food chain's the harder card to answer, but like I don't know, that's kind of unfortunate. You're gonna like 2-for-1 yourself. And then Jarvis is gonna get to 4-for-1 himself. Well, so you're not winning that battle either.
You take the food chain, you force the Manipulate Fate, and then you click the second food chain.
Okay, that seems a little bit better.
And then if you draw like a Ponder or a Wasteland or a Preordain, you can
still like,
fire
if you're gonna force the Manipulate Fate, it's better. It's better to just take it.
Snap Inquisition is an alternative to click.
But yeah, like I'm saying, like if you're gonna force the Manipulate Fate, then you just discard it instead. Yeah, I guess it looks like he's gonna be able to get it here. What's he doing? Looks like he might be going for the draw step click then.
Yeah, in hindsight, I do like taking the Manipulate Fate instead of the food chain. It forces Jarvis into his only play is turn 2 Baleful Strix.
Yeah, the other thing about this matchup is like it chooses to keep in his forces just because he's so scared of cards like Manipulate Fate and Food Chain. But Jarvis, doesn't have to do the same. So it's just not hard at all for Jarvis to outgrind Bonde in this matchup.
The click did take the second food chain. Drew him into a Baleful Strix. What's it called? Mist Hollow Griffin was drawn for turn, so Bond knows about it.
And this deck really just has so much value that, like, even though he's going to get a Snap Inquisition, his Manipulate Fate, he's still up on so many cards. And, like, once you take the Manipulate Fate, like, if you top deck another one, it's just still good enough. Wow, he chooses not to take it. It's kind of surprising. I guess he can attack his mana base. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't love this line. Especially being down a game. So Let's start looking. How does Michael win from here against two Baleful Strix and an opposing Deathrite, essentially shutting down your own?
Well, it's more like his death rate's shutting down Jarvis's because Jarvis has less mana right now. But we'll see if Jarvis is able to ponder into something.
But if you're Michael, how do you win from here? What are you drawing to?
Well, that's tough. I guess you really want your equipment. Um, yeah, I guess you want like a GT to go wild. That might be your best bet. Or your Planeswalker is going wild. Okay. I don't love this attack by Jarvis because I think like he is the controller role currently. So he's giving up some. He's trading like 2 damage for like 5 damage. Seems kind of bad.
And I wouldn't trade off a Deathrite here, because having the Deathrite advantage is, I think, significant. It pads your life total more than just trading with a Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, and I think Jarvis probably realized this attack wasn't good, so I'd be really surprised if he attacks again next turn.
Creeping Tar Pit, your opponent's on 12. I don't think he's made a land drop this turn, and he is not because he plays the Tar Pit.
So that's another way to win. Just kind of like survive until your Tar Pit gets there. It's not the most efficient way, but it's certainly an option.
Yeah, I don't like fetching there either. It lets Michael have a free Deathrite activation because you don't have black up.
Yeah, like if you want to fetch, you can fetch upkeep.
Especially since he's
That
just
being
getting
said,
underground.
that being said, like he can just drain again. So although he probably wants to gain life because he's the control role right now. So yeah, this ballista is going to be pretty nice though in cleaning up the click, and then maybe later on the snap.
I don't think there are any creatures in the yard right now.
Okay.
So Brainstorm off the top. There's no Leovold on the board. But also no shuffle. Well, I guess Manipulate Fate is a shuffle. And both Deathrites can produce mana right now.
Pretty good shuffle. What's he doing here? I guess he's really just looking for an answer to the tar pit or a way to combo.
Yeah, so if I'm Jarvis, I'm asking myself, how do I lose? So I think if the game goes long enough, you have inevitability.
Yeah, Ballista's sort of an answer to the tar pit as well.
That's true. Yeah, he could have Ballista for 3, take out the click and tar pit. Or just 2, not worry about the click.
2 this turn.
Yeah, not leave up black for Deathrite Shamans. Because now you're at essentially 5.
Yeah, he's in a dangerous position though because like, this turn Michael gets the drain, so.
Well, if he activates the tar pit, he can only drain with 1.
Okay, so I think Jarvis still trades here because that puts creatures in the graveyard and that lets him gain life. So I don't really like this attack by Bonde either. I do like the Dark Confidant though.
I mean, Dark Confidant plus click against a Walking Ballista on 2.
Good point. I guess it doesn't do that much. I think I would still have attack with the tar pit to force the Ballista activation, because then you're still trading 1 for 1 and you're in okay shape.
Jarvis is drawing dead. We know about the Thoughtseize on top. He didn't do anything to get rid of that.
Yeah, but he can play a second Ballista.
Okay, I was wrong. There's a Baleful Strix on top. I think there's a Thoughtseize underneath that then.
I think that's right.
Yeah, another option he has, maybe not great, but he can pump Ballista, kind of slow kill Deathright Shamans.
I think he really wants to, like, his constraint is mana right now, so I think he just leaves the Ballista to kill the Tar Pit. Well, I guess he wants to kill a Dark Confidant for sure this turn. So I guess because of that, then he might be. Well, he's also at 5 life. It's a really precarious position for him.
So there's the Thoughtseize that was on top. I guess that was 2 down.
Mm-hmm. I think the way he played, he has to let Bonde draw a card with a Dark Confidant. We'll see. So he can go to 9 and then kill the Dark Confidant.
Okay. Not
and then
in love with tapping
that
both
would be
Deathrights.
that would be 7 damage. So he could get greedy and not kill, or get greedy and kill the Confidant, or he does this.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, he plays the second Ballista. So now he definitely kills the Confidant and then just passes the turn. Like the click doesn't really do anything, and the second Ballista keeps the Tar Pit in check. So he's in okay shape. And once he like untaps, he gets to start gaining a little bit more life. There are now 3 creatures in the graveyard, so that's pretty good.
Surprise Wirewood Symbiote. Untap Deathright Shaman.
You would need a green source too.
Oh yeah, but he has Bayou in the deck. And the Forest to return. So, crashing in with the Tar Pit, he has to sacrifice one of the Ballistas. Is that Baleful Strix number 4?
You can never have enough Baleful Strixes. At least in this kind of deck.
Okay, so he's just going to add a counter to Walking Ballista.
Yeah, he's just trying to clean out the Shamans. Because that's how he loses this game.
Yeah.
So he can drain, and then Jarvis can't really do anything about it. Because of the other Deathright.
Okay, so
Okay, but there are no more things to drain was the problem. If he could drain stuff, then actually he would be in trouble. So the way Jarvis played it, he actually chose not to play any instants or sorceries for now, because his mana is kind of tied up pumping the ballistas. And he doesn't want Bonde to be able to drain. So.
And he just lost his last blue source. Well, I mean, he has the Deathright Shamans, but it's a Deathright Shaman duel. I don't like Bonde going after it here, because Jarvis can utilize the mana immediately to pump the Walking Ballista. There's nothing that Bonde wants to cast for 6 mana.
Yeah, not on the end step at least.
Well,
so yeah, we're gonna see a pump and then a killing of one of the Deathrights. If Bonde had like Zealous Persecution in his deck, actually I guess the Ballista would be on 1, so he'd be protected from that. Never mind.
Yeah, so Bonde's gonna untap. Can put him to 1 with it, or nope, still no instance in the yard, and he's losing a Deathright here. So choosing to exile a land at the end of Jarvis's turn didn't really accomplish anything. It cost him a Deathright.
Yeah, the thing with Deathright is like first mover is at a disadvantage because the second Deathright counters the first one. So usually the way I play it, it depends a lot on the situation, like how many cards are in the graveyard. But assuming there's tons of cards or about even life totals, I generally don't even activate my death rights, just so I can use them to counter my opponent's death rights.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to make the play to get your opponent's death rights to tap out in case you want to slam something
Right.
like, Sword of Fire and Ice plus Equip, but that's not a card he's playing.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you want them to tap out, or sometimes you want the graveyards to be small if your opponent has Goyf and you don't, etc., etc. But in general, it's better to be the second death right activator.
Yep, or Life from the Loam. Okay, so he's adding 2 instant and sorceries to the yard and going to 3. I do not like this Thoughtseize at all.
Yeah, it's kind of risky, but it lets him resolve and manipulate fate, so he's really just looking to draw some lands.
What was Bonde's way to get back into this game if he doesn't cast Thoughtseize, though?
Maybe you could always still draw Lingering Souls. I guess Lingering Souls is bad for him either way. Bad for Jarvis either way. Yeah. The issue with Bonde is like he doesn't have a green source to keep the gain life in check, so the death rates are always just gonna be like kind of at parity. Neither team's gonna be doing that much. Yeah, Jarvis just needs to survive and clear the board. He has like infinite cards. Okay, does Food Chain do anything here?
He can try and go infinite and maybe Baleful Strix into something.
Yeah, the one issue with the combo is you can have infinite mana, but it can only be used to cast creatures, so you can't actually pump the Ballista. That being said, he can play out his entire board, so that's not that bad. He just needs to be wary of his life total.
Okay, so if he's casting the Food Chain to try and go off, he's dead to Deathrite Shaman. If he doesn't find something.
So he can't do that.
And his only draw is off the Baleful Strix. But it looks like he's going for it. So Thoughtseize into Food Chain. Not been a fan of the last 2 turns here.
Yeah, I don't really understand this play because he literally just has to Baleful Strix into Walking Ballista and he wins. Otherwise, he loses, right? Like, I'm not missing anything.
Yeah. Yoshi Pond says in chat he's dead to Deathrite Shaman anyways, which I don't believe is true because he has double Deathrite up, and Bonde doesn't have green to fight his life gain. So he
could go to 3, and then when Bonde activates his Deathrite, Jarvis activates it in response. Bonde can do it then in response, but that just puts him at 1 life. So.
Well, it keeps him at 1 life. And then he can do
maybe
the same thing the next turn until somebody draws a removal spell.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's just 2 for 2, so you just stay at parity. So yeah, I don't really like this play. Maybe Jarvis didn't realize that putting a counter on Ballista does not work.
Sorry, I missed what you said.
I think maybe Jarvis didn't realize that that's not how Ballista works.
I don't know. Jarvis is a pretty sharp player.
I mean, it's either that or he like... What? Yeah.
He says in chat, "This play was bad. I am bad." Smiley face.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that was the other option, that he knew how the play worked, but then like just didn't map it out right.
Yeah. So with the trading 2 for 2, there's more creatures in the yard than there are instants and sorceries.
So now Jarvis is in the good old. Well, I'm dead. Should I keep playing cards? Is what he's tanking on right now, and he does the math and's like, all right, no, I'm dead. I'm not going to sit here and waste everybody's time. So thank you for that, Jarvis. We appreciate it. I was in that situation too last week against Caleb, where it was like one of the situations when I was on Sneak and Show. I wasn't completely sure I was dead. I was almost sure I was dead. And then Caleb had to like sit there for like 10 minutes, and I was just like F6, and I'm like, oh wow, this is fun. Caleb did tell me that I was dead, so then I eventually scooped. But yeah, Bomberman, even slower than Food Chain.
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad that deck is not playable on Magic Online. I really wish it was. I think it's a really, really cool deck.
I was going to say the same thing because it's been the Vintage Champs winner for the last 2 years in both North America and Asia.
Yeah, well, Oath is playable. The card that's not playable on Magic Online is REX Solvers. It just takes way too much time.
Yeah, but it was a Bomberman Oath list that.
I think, yeah, I think Kelly played Bomberman Oath, but I don't know that Taco did. But I might be wrong. Maybe they both played it.
I'm pretty sure. So sideboarding doesn't appear to change much. Bonde took out his Jute. Well, he took out his entire equipment package. So I guess he's relying on Meddling Mage to stop Baleful Strix, because those came in. Like, if that is something he's interested in. The Lingering Souls are also not in. Alright, so here comes the Jit back. And a Stoneforge. Just one.
That's my favorite Stoneforge package. One Stoneforge, one equipment.
Okay, now it's 2-1. Which is it's what I do against elves. Because the Batter Skull is really easy to blank and the sword doesn't do enough.
That makes sense. GTA is so good that I might still, want like 2 or 3 Stoneforge. I don't know.
To answer a chat question, Jarvis won game 1 and then Bonde won game 2. We're entering game 3 now. Yes, Jarvis is 2-1 in matches. Alright. Looks like we're on to game 3. If Bonde loses this, we're done. And if Jarvis loses this, we get to see the full 5 decks. And I guess I keep both of these hands. Bonde is on the play. I don't love his hand, but he's playing enters the battlefield tap land, so or never mind, Jarvis is on the play. I'm stupid. This is going to be rough for him because of that Ballista. Ballista on 2 answers Dark Confidant very well, and then he'll be able to pump it to answer the second one. I guess Thoughtseize off the top is a pretty good draw. But now he's not doing anything on his turn 2 without an untapped land off the top. So, I would, yeah. Okay. That's not what I would take. I'd definitely take the Ballista.
I think Bonde has evaluated that like Food Chain's like really hard for him to answer, so that he would rather just take other cards. You saw that last game too, where he basically just kept taking the Food Chain, despite there being like a Manipulate Fate.
But his hand is Meddling Mage Vindicate.
Yeah, I mean he does have like one answer and a pseudo roadblock, I guess.
Like he has all of his answers to Food Chain, and he has a bunch of things that die to Ballista.
So Jarvis is going to get to see the Deluge here, which is pretty good for him, so that he doesn't play both of his creatures into it. I'm not even sure what he takes. I guess probably the Vindicate. Kind of tricky to play out. Because right now, like, Bonde is going to be kind of slow in developing, because he's only on 2 lands. But Jarvis has like nothing going on either. So he actually takes the Deluge, so that allows him to cast the Ballista either this turn or next, and then that will keep in check the Dark Confidants. So basically Jarvis's plan is to have Ballista keep in check the Dark Confidants, and then hopefully draw into some more relevant stuff.
I think the Vindicate is a touch too slow in this matchup. You don't want to be spending 3 mana and what is essentially your entire turn answering 1-for-1 with a creature combo deck, much like why people side out Abrupt Decay against elves. It's just a touch too slow, I think.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I actually used to do it, and then Jarvis said I was crazy. Why do you side out Murder against a creature deck? So I don't do it anymore. Obviously, you would rather have one mana removal like Fatal Push or Swords to Plowshares, but Decay is still serviceable against elves. So he's considering Baleful Strix.
If you're Bond here, what do you name?
Ooh, I don't hate Manipulate Fate. That's honestly like I would be like always taking Manipulate Fate. Like that card is just like a 4 for 1. There's no card like it in Legacy. Period.
Yeah, he's actually discussing it with Shahar Shanhar right now, on his side of the chat, because they're on the same team, I guess, for Grand Prix Cleveland coming up next weekend.
Gotcha.
And he ends up naming Brainstorm.
See, I don't like that because what if you draw your own Brainstorm? Wow, the sick, nasty read. Yes. Not even like the read from his hand, but like the read from like his deck. That being said, Jarvis's Ballista requires an answer, and so he can't really kill it this. He could kill it this turn, but he's better served just pumping this turn and then pumping next turn. Ballista is actually a really, really good card if left unchecked.
Yeah, so I think Brainstorm is a little justified. So we know about the Polluted Delta from Thoughtseize as one of the cards in Jarvis's hand, and then he kept from Ponder. If you're really as worried about the combo as Michael seems to be, Brainstorm is, I think, a defendable name. I mean, personally,
it was obviously the right name given what Jarvis drew, Mike. It was just the right name strictly.
Yes, if we go by results, is clearly the correct name. I used an anecdote as evidence once, and it turned out I was right. So running out the Dark Confidant.
Right. This is kind of funny now. He drew another Brainstorm. But that being said, I think Jarvis still wants to kill the Dark Confidant. He just wants, if the game stays a stalemate, that's okay with him because eventually the Ballista can kill the Meddling Mage, and then he can like cast his Brainstorm. So.
I mean, sure, the game state's staying the same, but it also might be a Screw versus Flood situation. His opponent has, at that point, 6 cards in hand. And
the thing is, like, Jarvis Flooding's not that bad for him just because he has Ballista.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you said, Ballista's good against all these X1s.
Bonde is just looking for land. Or if I'm Bonde, I'm looking for a blue land.
If he has a Flusterstorm now,
mm-hmm.
Shit, my man. Yep.
Guess what?
Nothing.
It was a Wasteland and something else. It was decidedly not blue, but lets him suicide another Dark Confidant if he really wants to.
Yeah, and I agree with casting them because it's kind of just delaying the game.
I mean, you have Vindicate the next turn.
Okay, so I guess you could hold off. Yeah, that makes sense actually.
I guess your life total is getting a little pressured by the Deathrite Shaman, but you'll still be at least 12.
Yeah, you can be at 14, and then the Ballista's going to shoot the Mage and you, so you would be at 11. But yeah, looks like second Deathrite.
You get the sweet Brainstorm value.
So now he's deciding if he wants to add a counter and then shoot the Meddling Mage and cast Brainstorm, or just cast a Deathrite and say go. And so I think, given that he knows Bonde's hand, he's okay with just getting a little bit more value out of his. Well, I guess he knows that he has Vindicate incoming, so maybe we'll see.
So it's another land off the top, which... Okay, yeah, I don't like the attack, because it's just a chump attack.
Yeah, it would be a chump attack, because Ballista could just pump. So... Whoa, he doesn't cast the Vindicate.
Oh.
Then you're kind of just time walking yourself.
Yeah,
I guess you can play the click, but again, that's pretty weak in the face of Ballista.
believe there's some audio that was left in where he says, "I'm a buffoon. I thought it was an instant." Something along those
Okay.
lines.
Yeah, that's the thing about LPL is you play these cards that you're not really as used to.
Jesus
Ooh, and he has
Christ!
to spend a force of
You
will.
have to play it. You have to play it. You have to play it. No,
Pretty
I'll just play it
bad.
end of turn when he taps his mana. Jesus
I was
Christ.
trying to tell you.
All right, well now Jarvis gets to go to town on the fair plan. Just
There,
Deathrite Drain.
there was the audio clip that I had mentioned.
Nice. He's even getting in with this Ballista, like the damage is adding up.
He can block with Tar Pit, I guess, if he really wants to clear the Ballista.
Yeah, but then he can just pump, right?
Well, if he double blocks, it forces a trade,
Okay.
and he still has to pump if he wants to clear both. Like, it's not great, but
So he could pump to a 4/4, yeah, and then that trades with both. That seems pretty good for him.
and unlocks 2 Brainstorms from his hand.
Yeah.
What's the best thing Jarvis could brainstorm into right now?
Can't do that much this turn.
Well, it's not.
Certainly wasn't those
cards.
But maybe next turn he can do something.
Jarvis says Lul. The sound clips were gas. Alright, so second meddling mage
Cool
off the,
indeed.
second meddling mage off the top. That so he'll go to 11 at end of turn, and then down to 7 on Jarvis's turn if he wants, or Michael's next end of turn because of these death rates. So essentially 7 life playing Dark Confidant. Maybe not where you want to be. There's 2 walking ballistas.
Wow, Walking Ballista is so good when you flood out. He gets to play a Ballista for 2 and a Scourge. That's pretty good. Ballista for 2. I don't even know if he killed it Dark Confidant. It's like probably okay. He just makes it for 3. That's fine too. And he gets to get in 1 still. Yeah. Either way, unchecked Ballista. Well, now he finally gets to shoot off the Vindicate, so that puts him down to 10.
I'll put him to 8.
Yeah.
And then the death rates alone are a 2-turn clock.
2-turn clock.
He needs double removal spell off the top now. Or I guess.
Or yeah, just he has this too. So.
But yeah, well, yeah, we know about that. Bonde obviously doesn't. And if he did leave in a Relic of Progenitus, I believe he sided it out for game 3. But he did have one in for game 2, and I guess it would be marginally good here. Liliana is not great, especially against Eternal Scourge plus Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, it'll just keep coming back. Yeah, Food Chain has all these like sick built-in tricks.
And now he's dead on board, so.
But yeah, he's just dead on board. So, I do really enjoy that trick. Though, oh, you kill my creature, I will just exile it.